Okay, this PowerPoint presentation is to help you with your LV08K written assignment. LV08 is chassis tech and the K is the knowledge part, so it's the written assessment. What you got here is the assignment brief, and I've covered over people's names, so it's just a screenshot of a generic assignment brief. And it says here that you need to select a light vehicle electronically controlled chassis system. So the chassis systems that we're going to cover throughout the year, chassis systems includes brakes, steering and suspension. Now we haven't covered electronic steering as yet, or suspension, but we have looked at electronic brake systems, so ABS and traction control. So I would suggest that that would be a good starting point. Now the first thing that you need to do, I'm going to focus in on the first section. It says you must provide a detailed description of the construction and operation of the system. Now, personally, I think this is the most important part of this assignment. I'm just going to uncover the rest of it. All right. If you look at the follow-up questions, it starts with explain a typical electrical fault found in the system, and then how it goes into how you diagnose that and the types of readings that you would get. So I think if you get this first section wrong, then it follows that everything else will probably be wrong as well. So, as I say, really do focus on attention to detail within this first section. It's the meat and bones of this assessment, in my opinion. Okay, so you've got to provide a detailed description of construction and operation. I would start with an overview. So find yourself a diagram, something like this one that I've got here, which shows you, basically you've got four wheels. The blue lines on this diagram show that we've got a conventional hydraulic system. So we've got our master cylinder pumping out brake fluid to each of the four wheels. All right. It also shows in the red lines the electronic circuit that supports that hydraulic system. So, for example, we've got the speed sensors shown on each of the four wheels that feed information to an ECU, an electronic control unit, which in turn controls the hydraulic unit and obviously then controls how the brakes operate. So it's a nice simple diagram and gives you a basis that you can make reference to when you're describing the construction and layout in particular of the system. This slide here is just an alternative layout. Again, it's got the four wheels, or shown as tyres, and it shows that we still have our hydraulic system supported by an electronic system, so sensor on each wheel feeding information to our electronic control unit, which in turn controls the output, which in this case would be the hydraulic control modulator. So it's just an alternative diagram that you might want to use. As I say, if you look on the internet, you'll find lots of schematic diagrams like this showing the layout in lots of different ways. Just pick one that best supports or illustrates what it is that you're trying to say in your written work. Okay, so I'm just going to pop back. This one here, the reason I've gone back to this one is because you can see the graphical representation of your sensors. Now, remember that the assignment brief or assessment brief is to provide a detailed description of the construction and operation. So we've looked at how the sensors work in quite a lot of detail. So find yourself a diagram on the internet like this one. This one's an inductive wheel speed sensor. We know that it has a permanent magnet with a coil of wire wrapped around it, and we've got two connections, and we have a toothed or slotted ferrous wheel that moves close to the magnet and changes the strength of the magnetic field. So you can, once you've got a diagram, it becomes fairly easy to describe the construction. It has a magnet and a coil of wire, etc., etc., and what the components are and how they work. So that the diagram helps you piece together your written work. Once you've described the construction and operation of the sensor, you can then go on to say that the data that it produces in the form of a sine wave is fed into the ECU, and the ECU then processes that information and monitors the speed of your two wheels on the same axle. You could point out in your written assignment that the speed of the two wheels on the same axle will vary, as shown in this diagram. When we're going around in this case, a roundabout, the inside wheel will travel a shorter distance than the outside wheel. So by definition, these wheels are going to be moving at different speeds. And if you remember, I said that the computer or the ECU will ignore or won't take any notice of wheel speeds that are within a 30% tolerance. So if this wheel is moving 30% slower than this wheel, then the ABS won't do anything. It's only when we go outside of that tolerance, i.e. let's say this one's going 50% faster than this wheel, then the ABS might kick in and do something. So, and you know about the phases of operation, the 3 phases. So you could describe that. So you could get yourself a picture of an ABS modulator, which you can then go and say it has an electric motor, which is this thing here, which drives a pump to create hydraulic pressure, which the system will use to apply the brakes as and when necessary. We have a series of valves in this section here, which are operated by solenoids in here. Some more pictures here. There's the same unit, but it's had the casing taken off the back of the motor, so you can see the motor armature in here, and you can see the valves that are inside this block here, and another photo there. These are the solenoid windings that sit over the top of these valves, and when we put electricity through the windings in here, it induces a magnetic field and opens and closes these solenoid valves in here to control whether the brakes are applied or held, applied and released. You know, the 3 phases of operation, so you could describe those. And you could also mention, if you've got a diagram here, that we've got 4 wheels, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4 banks, and there are 3 phases of operation for each one. So your hold, release and increase. Now I don't know that's what they are in this specific one, but you know, as long as you refer to your diagram and describe how it operates, that would be great. Okay, so if you've covered all of that detail, you know, a decent description of the construction and operation, I'm just going to back to the original brief. Okay, if we describe the construction and operation of the sensor and how that produces a signal that goes to the modulator, I think you would have come up with a decent description of the construction and operation of the system. Once you've got that in place, it becomes much easier to do the other parts. Alright, so I will produce a separate video for those as and when necessary. Alright, hope this helps. Okay, I'm going to sign out. Thank you very much.